Hi, everybody. It's Christine, and I hope you're doing well. Again, we have such a beautiful sunny day outside. It's absolutely amazing. And I hope you're going to enjoy the weather to the maximum as soon as you have finished watching that video. I'm very, very happy that I can introduce my friend Tim to you today. Tim Box is the owner and founder of Control System, a system that I was trained in, and that changed a lot of things in my life, but it changed also everything about the way I work with my clients. Apart from that, he's a remedial hypnotist and a best-selling author of the book Clear Your Head that I will link to, that you can buy after the video. And he's an international speaker. Last year he had a TED Talk about anxiety. So he is an absolute specialist and expert on anxiety. And the video, the TED Talk, you absolutely have to watch as well. So welcome, Tim. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hello, thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Yes. And I would love you to share your 3 top tips, or 5 if you have,
Yeah.
how to deal with anxiety, or, how to stay just mentally and physically fit and sane during those challenging, weird, and interesting times as well.
Yeah, well, they are interesting times, aren't they? They're completely unique as well, and things that none of us have been through before, which is, probably what's the most interesting thing about it. So what I've done, I've grabbed three tips that I think are quite general ones, and they apply specifically to the situation we're in, but can apply, across the board. I do a lot of work with anxiety, and obviously at the moment there's a lot of anxiety being spiked and sent to high levels, but it doesn't mean that we stop dealing with it when we're the other side of this particular situation we're in now. But okay, so I'm going to dart through these. I'll try and keep it brief and try and keep them simple, because they are super simple bits of advice here. First tip is do your best to only focus on the things that are in your control. And what I mean by this, there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment that's out of our control. So what's going on with the world and what other people are doing and what the government's saying and things like that. A load of stuff that we're being asked to put our attention on because we haven't experienced it before. So our mind is trying to compartmentalize what's going on, trying to get a handle on it and understand it and get our strategies for moving forward in place. So there's a lot of stuff demanding our focus and our attention. But the more focus we put on the stuff that we can't influence or we can't change, the more out of control of everything we feel. There's this simple principle that what we focus on grows. So if we put our focus on the stuff that we're out of control of, we perceive ourselves as out of control of all the major things in our life. And that's not a comfortable feeling for us as human beings. We like to be in control. So if all we can see is stuff that we can do nothing about, then it's a really uncomfortable feeling and potentially causes a really high amount of anxiety. So what I encourage people to do is to concentrate only on the things that we can control. And, that comes under one category, really, and that's ourself. That's the only thing that we have control of, is our own responses, our own actions, our own feelings, all that sort of stuff. If we just regard the little stuff that we're doing every day, our own little corner of the planet, the thing that we're in charge of, then what happens is we make that our reality, that I'm in control of me, I'm in control of my situation, and that reduces anxiety because we start to feel a little bit more comfortable about the everyday things that we're taking care of. So try and draw your focus away from the stuff we're not in control of. A good way of doing this, by the way, is to come away from the news and social media as often as you can, because all you're seeing there is stuff that you can do nothing about. And especially at night time as well, like a couple of hours before bed, just switch off any news, any social media, anything that's going to input new information for you, because it just won't do you any good. You'll end up not sleeping, and then you'll wake up the next day feeling rough and feeling a worse version of yourself. And that potentially can cause more anxiety as well, because then all the things that you've got to deal with that day, be them small or large, where you're drained, where you're exhausted, you feel less able to do it. Okay, there's a simple principle here, actually. We're not anxious about what's going on. We're anxious about our ability to deal with what's going on. So if we can switch off, shut down, come away from all of this stuff and have respite time, so time when we rest and we relax and when we get our sleep in particular, then we'll feel much more able to deal with whatever unexpected stuff life throws at us today. And there will be loads of unexpected stuff, because there always has been every day of our life. Okay, so that's tip number one, I would say. Second thing, take one thing at a time. As we've already said, there's a lot of new stuff coming into our awareness. There's also an entirely new situation we've been put in. I've been speaking to a lot of parents whose kids now are not at school, so they're being asked to not just look after the children at a time when they weren't expecting to, but also school them and provide them with their education and things like that, which is a lot of extra responsibility to take on, stuff they haven't done before. And we've all kind of got things that are new, that are different from the norm. So potentially we could be trying to manage a lot of things at once. But again, as human beings, we don't do that very well. We're not multitaskers. And I know, ladies, you may think, oh, we multitask and men don't multitask. But really, as human beings, we might have loads and loads of stuff going on in our subconscious, hundreds of things probably at any given time. We only have our conscious focus. It's best put on one thing at a time. If we choose to just do the one thing at a time, get that done, and then move on to the next thing, we tend to get through things really, really well. And also, we don't leave ourselves vulnerable to that overwhelm feeling. People that are suffering with overwhelm, which again is a massive cause of anxiety, tends to be too many things, not enough time. But it's more about the fact that the thing that we're trying to do at the moment, our focus keeps going to the other stuff that we've got to do later. We're not looking at that one small job that's in front of us. We're looking at the 20 that are behind it. And then we perceive like that's a whole load of stuff. Can I even do that in the time that I've given myself? Am I even capable of overcoming those hurdles? Yeah. If we just do one thing at a time, turns out we get to the end of the list fairly quickly because we're quite good at doing things one thing at a time. So if we do that, if we just decide to take things one thing at a time, we don't then cause ourselves excessive, unwarranted and unneeded anxiety levels. Okay, so that's the second thing. Third thing is a real fundamental that I talk about a lot. I talk about it in the TED Talk as well. And that is that it's okay to feel anxious. These days, people do a lot of beating themselves up for feeling anxious because there's this perception that if we feel high levels of anxiety, that means there's something wrong with us. And there's two really good reasons why it doesn't mean that at all. First of all, at the moment, there's big stuff going on. It's a global pandemic. I think it would be weird if we weren't experiencing slightly higher levels of anxiety than we normally do. We've not dealt with this before. Yeah. I think it's a perfectly healthy response that we feel slightly anxious. It would be unhealthy almost just to not regard it and not pay attention to it, you know. So the fact that we feel anxious is okay. Yeah, that means we're alive. It means we're human. It means we're functioning. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. The second reason why it's okay to feel anxious is that, yeah, we're going to feel anxiety every single day of our life. That's not a bad thing. That means our emotions are triggering in the appropriate way. Yeah, every emotion has a purpose, and we've said this before. You'll see this explained in the TED Talk. But so if we feel fear, the purpose of that emotion is to steer us away from whatever danger we perceive in front of us. Yeah. If we feel that we've been wronged, we might feel anger, and the idea of anger is to right the wrong. It inspires us to action. Anxiety is that bit of our mind saying, this is the most important thing right now. This is what's pressing. Pay attention to it. Deal with it. Yeah. So we're going to feel it every single day of our lives because there's always going to be things that demand our attention from one moment to the next. I use that really silly example of Friday here in where I live is dustbin day. So I wake up with a little bit of anxiety. A bit of me is saying to me, don't forget to take the bins out. Yeah, it's not crippling. It doesn't paralyze me. Yeah, but and once the bins are out, it's gone. Yeah, but it tells me, oh, that's what I need to do now rather than later on. You know, so if we didn't feel anxiety, we wouldn't really be getting much done. We wouldn't have a job. We wouldn't have a partner. You know, because nothing would have seemed important enough to take action on. So it's okay to feel anxious. It doesn't mean you're broken. Yeah, it just means that this is a big situation right now. These are weird times, okay? So I think it's perfectly understandable that your subconscious is trying to make your conscious aware of lots of things. That's okay, yeah? But if you follow the other two tips in terms of dealing only with what you can control and getting one thing done at a time, then more often than not, we can get control of that anxiety level. And it can just be that functional stuff that steers us where we need to go on a daily basis. So that's, you know, from the back pocket, that's the 3 top tips I would be giving just to calm your anxiety levels and allow you just to get on with the day, you know?
Absolutely brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Tim. And I think it's also extremely useful to know, for people to know, that it is normal and okay to feel anxious. You know, it's just a feeling, you know. People are mostly even not aware of what is going on. You know, they just have that feeling. If it's the trash bin or if it's the presentation, it feels the same in a way. You know, physically it feels the same. But then you start to think about anxiety and am I anxious now? And then, of course, you find to be anxious.
Well, this is the thing. I bet there's a lot of people watching this video saying, oh, it's all very well to talk about taking the bins out, Tim, but the sort of anxiety levels I'm feeling are more than that.
Right.
Now, look, that's absolutely understandable. And take it from somebody who's suffered anxiety for a long time in the past, you know. The problem is, though, we tend to get those high levels, not because we're really anxious about this or that, X or Y, because we're anxious about the fact we feel anxious. So we do this thing, we wake up in the morning and we sort of scan ourselves. How anxious do I feel today? Am I going to have an anxious day or am I going to have a good day, you know? And where we're looking for the anxiety, of course we're going to find it because, you know, we're human. And that's an anxious thing to do. As soon as we feel anxiety, we're like, oh, I do feel anxious. I'm going to have a bad day today. That creates further anxiety about the anxiety. So it's like, we might be feeling anxious about, you know, certain things, but it's the anxiety we feel about anxiety that tips it to the next level. So if we can allow ourselves to be okay with the fact I'm anxious about this thing coming up or that thing that I've got to do, or we can avoid adding on the extra levels of anxiety, the extra stuff that doesn't need to be there. So that's, you're absolutely right. The last thing we want to be feeling anxious about right now is how anxious we feel, because it's perfectly
fantastic. Oh, thank you so much, Tim. So can people buy your book on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon. Clear Your Head. I've got, actually, he said, magically draws one from his back pocket. I should say, I'm not just sitting here waiting to plug my book, right? I did actually have this next to me because I feel like I'm living my life on Zoom right now. So I have lots of meetings on screen. And we were talking about it. So I just happened to have it next to me. But that's it. And you can get it on Amazon,
Right. So I will send a link to Amazon to get the book because it's a very useful, very useful and very fast read also. It's very easy to read and to understand some stuff even better. And I'm linking the beautiful, brilliant TED Talk that you gave last year. Also, above or below the video, whatever I do. And I thank you so much for your time. I'm sure it was very useful and people will find a lot of benefit from your tips.
I hope so.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, no, wait. Don't leave. Where can people find... I forgot to ask, where can people find you if they want to know more about you?
Oh, okay, right. So I've got my website is thecontrolsystem.co.uk. Find out a little bit more about what I do and about the control system, which is my system. I've got 2 major social media things you can follow me on. Facebook, I am Timbox, the control system. And on Instagram, I've got to remember this correctly now, I think I'm just at the control system. Yeah, that's what it is. And also, if you are on Facebook, I have a group called Clear Your Head, which is about dealing with anxiety. There's stuff posted in there every day, tips, advice, how to get control of all of this.
Wonderful. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a lovely, go into the sun.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.